Ready? Okay, well, good evening and welcome to the Credit River Candidate Forum. The date of the election is Tuesday, May 11th. Please note that Karen Witt has withdrawn from the race for the 4-year city council term. All of the candidates were invited April 7th via email or phone to join us. Questions have been compiled from those submitted by Credit River residents. Because of time constraints, not all of the submitted questions will be asked. The first question asked will be the one that was most often submitted by Credit River residents, and so on. There will be a time limit of 2 minutes for the candidate's opening statement and 1 minute to answer each question in order to be able to ask as many of the Credit River residents' questions as possible. I have a digital timer at the podium. The order of which candidate is asked the question first, second, and so on was by lottery and done this evening prior to the start of this event. Because of COVID-19 protocol regarding social distancing, the candidates will be asked the same questions in 3 separate groups: 2-year city council, 4-year city council, and lastly, the mayor position. Masks will be worn by all when not seated at the table, and surfaces will be sanitized between the changing of the groups at the table. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to make an opening introduction statement before the questions are asked, in order to let all of us know their background and experience that they believe will be an asset to Credit River if elected. This format is not a debate between candidates or a place to discuss what the candidate who is speaking thinks of the Township Board's successes or failures of the past. Tonight's forum is a way for Credit River residents, such as myself, to get to know the candidates and their vision for the future so that we can cast an educated vote for our City of Credit River Council and Mayor positions. With all this said, let us stand, face the flag, and join together in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the 5 candidates that we have seated at the table in front of you who are viewing live stream are candidates for the 2-year city council terms. The election will be 2 of these 5 candidates. Starting from the viewer, those of you who are watching this live stream, starting from your left is Novak. Next, Howe, Abe Santo, Dombroski, and Andrew Stevens. With that said, we will start with opening statements, starting with Andrew on the viewer's far right.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks to all the candidates that have come here tonight, and most importantly, thanks to everyone online. Chris, did you get a chance to do an audio check with people online, make sure everyone can hear? Sounds like we're good to go then. Well, what an exciting time here in Credit River. Transitional time. When I thought about running for city council, brought up as a Scandinavian Norwegian, probably like many in the room, you're taught not to talk about yourself, you don't talk about money, you don't talk about politics, and you don't talk about religion. So how in the heck do you run for office? Here we are. I think I bring something to the table that probably none of the other candidates do. I live here and I work here. And let me explain. I moved here like all of us did, probably. Great place to live, south of the metro. Grew up south of the river. This feels like home. Raised my family here. I plan to be here for the next 20 to 40 years. The decisions we make as we transition from a township to a city are going to affect all of us, but definitely those of us that are going to be here for when that 2040 plan comes true. I feel that it is a transitional time for the leadership here at the township as well. We need some diversity of experience, knowledge, personal and professional backgrounds, and that's where I get to. I work here. I'm the chief of the ambulance service here. I'm an emergency medical first responder. I already have an ethical responsibility to this community. I take that forward as I look forward to being in your next city council. How do you put this two together? Up here at 185th and Natchez, we had the most dangerous intersection in Credit River. I don't want to tell you the stories about what I had to do at that intersection, but I'll tell you the stories about what I did to make sure we don't have that intersection anymore. I was able to leverage that position as live here and work here to meet with the county commissioners, the sheriff, walk through with my knowledge and experience to make sure there was a solution put forward to the entire community to make sure that that intersection got fixed. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Andrew. Next is Brock Dombroski.
My name is Brock. That's it. That's all you gotta know is Brock. I've got a last name, but it's really hard to pronounce. I grew up 3.1 miles away, directly north. A little road called 150th Street. When I was 19 years old, a developer came along. They offered my parents a large sum of money to purchase their land and build low-quality townhomes. Well, of course, my parents made a good amount of money, and I had to watch my childhood dreams burn to the ground. And, well, we've all been the savage. So we already know what happened there. And with that being said, I now live right out those windows. I can see my house. And I do not want to see urban sprawl come into Credit River. I never saw myself being in this position ever. I never thought I'd be sitting here. I'm going to tell you a little story about becoming a realtor. A number of years ago, I had my fiance come to me and say, hey, we're expecting a child. I went, whoa, I better figure out how to start making some good money, because I've been pursuing television up until that point and actually doing construction for my parents' company. But anyways, I decided to get back into real estate. And with that being said, I don't like realtors. I never liked realtors. I got into real estate when I was 21, unsuccessful. I got into real estate when I was 29, unsuccessful. So I decided to move forward into real estate with sort of a different approach. I don't like that schmoozy, snaky salesperson-y. I just want to be real. And it turns out it's been pretty successful. And my clients like the fact that I'm a down-to-earth guy. I drive a pickup truck. And don't let the suit fool you. I usually only wear this to closing day. But I want to move forward with the same approach. I don't like politicians. I don't like politics. And that's why I'm here, is I want to be real.
Thank you, Brock. Next up, Abe Santo.
First and foremost, thank you, Steve, for this opportunity to come in front of you and all the members of this great community. Thank you to the other candidates, and mostly thank you to our residents. My name is Abe Santo. I'm the new guy on the block. Believe it or not, I've lived here for a year and a half. I lived in Eureka Township, and I loved Eureka Township. It was a small little community. Unfortunately, the house that my wife of 25 years and our 6 kids couldn't sustain 6 kids. So we decided to move into the big city of Lakeville and realized that that was the last place we wanted to be. We wanted to get back out into the country. We wanted to be close to the city, but yet have the space. We've fallen in love with Credit River. We've fallen in love with the community. We wanted that slow paced, small feel, and that's really why I'm here. I'm an IT director by trade, so speaking is the last thing in the entire world I want to do. However, I like to think I bring a couple things to the table, and that's common sense, and that's integrity. In addition to being an IT director, I am on the board of directors for a nonprofit called Breakthrough Ministries, of which I was the chairman for 2 years and the treasurer for 1 year. And that taught me a lot about how to work with a group, work with a lot of different areas within the community, downtown Minneapolis, and also with volunteers. The reason I'm here is I'm passionate about two things. I'm really passionate about keeping government small, keeping the community able to do what they want to do, keeping the community free to do what they want to do, and also keeping Credit River what it is. It's a small community. Let's not make it something large that we're not. We're not a Savage. We're not a Burnsville. Let's keep it small. Thank you.
Thanks, Abe. Next up, Paul Howe.
Hi, Paul Howe. I moved into Credit River with my wife in 2001, and starting in about 2010, started attending the board meetings. And then when Bruce Nielsen passed away, joined the board in 2016. So I've been on the board for about 5 years now, and I think it takes about 5 years to become good at being on the board and knowing where the ropes are and how the processes work. Let's see. That's, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Lastly, in this group for the 2-year term is Al Novak.
Thanks, Steve. It's I've lived in the township for about 23 years. Been on the board for about 11. I got involved over a single issue. It was a road project in our neighborhood. A lot of the residents were concerned at how it was handled. We had a neighborhood meeting. They said, somebody's got to run for the board. It's you. And so I ended up on the board. It's been a great experience. We have great people on the board. Everybody's concerned about the community. I've always been engaged, coached my kids' sports. We're on various volunteer organizations. My background, I'm retired now, was 20 years with a large multinational manufacturing company, traveled the world. I think what I bring in is experience with human resources, hiring, firing people, dealing with people, regardless of background. And I echo some of the comments. We love the feel of Credit River. So it's, do we want to be a Lakeville? Probably not. It's how do we keep the feel, but improve services and keep things running the way they are. I personally think it's been pretty well run, and just want to continue that approach.
Thank you, Al. Now, we will be going back to the questions. Again, there were 9 questions that were given to the candidates last week in order to give them all equal time to prepare. So for the first question, we will go back to Andrew and start with you. In order to address your present knowledge of past governance topics of Credit River, how many Credit River meetings, planning commission meetings, or miscellaneous township meetings have you attended during 2019 or 2020?
Thanks, Steve. Ever since we moved back and bought our property here in the 2015-2016 timeframe, as we moved back here to home from Indianapolis, where I held a city county government position there as the deputy medical director, I found it important to be part of the governance here. I come to all the annual meetings. COVID, I'm sure, is the current board as well as the townspeople made it difficult to feel like you were engaged. The online forums were helpful. Try to make sure that I keep an eye on the agenda and the planning commission that's there. To total it up, I'd say that I'm at least quarterly involved in the planning commission board meetings, annual meetings total. Also, I'm not unfamiliar with the processes. With my current job, vice president and chief, I deal with 120 different municipalities, city, county governments, and tribal organizations across Minnesota. I'm familiar how board functions, and I'm familiar how to run these meetings, and I do appreciate the time. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Andrew. Brock, I won't repeat the same question, so why don't you go ahead?
How many meetings have I attended? I think that's completely irrelevant. Next.
Okay, thank you. Abe.
Like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a newcomer to the environment, to the city. In 2019, I was settling in and 0. In 2020 with COVID, it actually was helpful for me to participate more with not being here. So I was able to attend meetings. I was able to attend the annual meeting that was just held. A few things that I feel I'm trying to get up to speed with, and there's great resources out there. I've scoured through all the meeting minutes for the last couple of years. I've devoured documents. The town hall, the town board has done a great job at putting things out there for other residents and others that are interested can get that information.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Well, I have a slight advantage as the incumbent, so I attended essentially all of the meetings in 2019 and 2020, except when I was ill or on vacation. And also attend the road project roll tests when those occur, which is part of the acceptance of the roads. And the LBA meetings, the local board of assessment meetings.
Thank you.
Steve, just a point of clarification. I
Yes.
think we should be careful about the use of the term incumbent, as no one is an incumbent here to a city council position, and that we're all newcomers here to this new transitional government.
That's a great point, Andrew, and that is. And when you look at the ballot, when you go to vote, you will not see an incumbent label on anyone because, to Andrew's point, this is city council, brand new city council and mayor positions. And so for that, and thank you for that point that you brought up. And then also, for those of you who are just watching this, the reason we asked this question was because it was the one most often submitted by the residents. Whether I felt it was impartial or not had nothing to do with it. My job was to make sure to look through those questions and ask the ones that were asked the most often. So excuse me for that. So next in line. Yes.
So, yeah, so I tried to add it up, and I came up with probably 50 to 75 meetings of some various type over the last 2 years. And there's everything across the board. I used to be a member of SCALE, there's the Minnesota Association of Townships, there's the regular board meetings, there's resident meetings, there's a lot that goes on. And so that's the best estimate I could come up with, was 50 to 75 engagements over the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Al. Second question now. Al, we will start with you for the second question. How familiar are you with the process of what needs to be done as Credit River transitions from township to city status?
Yeah, and I would say very familiar. Again, that's one of the advantages of incumbency. We've been working on this for at least 10 years, if not more. We've been budgeting for it for a decade into how we become a city. So very involved with the planning process, with the different government meetings we've had to get this approved. It's been a long process. I give our current board chair a lot of credit for finally pushing it across the finish line, but we've all been very engaged in getting this done.
Thank you. Paul?
Well, I think I'm fairly well informed about the process. Certainly the chair is more informed and is leading it. But we're going to be a planned type A type city with a weak mayor and 4-person council. We've begun the transition, actually probably completed the transition of planning and zoning, having already issued 100 permits instead of Scott County. We'll be continuing to use Scott County policing, our Lake Fire Services, so it's important to maintain good relationships with those organizations. We're working on get progress on a services agreement with Savage, which will be supplying sewer and water services in the future. We're looking at state aid cities for our highway and road planning. And we're switching from the Township Association to the League of Cities, which also changes our liability insurance provider.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Abe?
Yeah, I just think you have to give props. I believe that the current supervisors have done a good job. They've done a good job at pushing this forward, recognizing the need to incorporate. Also, again, going back to the website and having all the documentation out there, it's extremely helpful for someone new like myself to come in and be able to catch up rather quickly. A couple other things I found are extremely helpful is Paul mentioned the League of Minnesota Cities. Great resources out there to be able to understand next steps, who needs to do what, when to do things. And then also leaning on our Scott County, being able to talk with them and to be able to do the appropriate steps next.
Okay, thank you. Brock?
Yes, steps to transition from a township to a city. I mean, I know that we already hired on Jason Malkin, great guy. And there's a lot more steps that we're gonna have to implement in order for us to become a city. What I didn't mention is I spent from when I was 20 to 25, a lot of Monday nights at the City Hall in Savage. Now, I was not in this position. I was actually in a position, the one behind the camera. And I spent 5 years watching all of the city councils take place, and I learned a lot. Now, like I said, I never thought I'd be in this position, but I do think that what I learned from that experience is going to help considerably with being on this side of the table.
Thank you, Brock. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And Paul, I think you forgot one other important relationship, our ambulance service, when you mentioned our police and fire. And that's part of why I've been so present and why some of the current township board members know my face. And my familiarity is that this has been on the radar and you guys have been working on this a long time. And that was one of the precipitous to me to start to attend board meetings and start to make sure I'm checking up on agendas and seeing where we are with progress and not just counting on communications through the paper. But I think with that project, it's time for some new eyes on this too, because you can get caught up in tunnel vision when you've been working on this for a long time. And that's what I bring to the table. I mentioned that I've seen how 120 other municipality governments do this in a variety of different organizational systems and how their relationships work with their external partners, such as their police, fire, and EMS. And I'd really appreciate the opportunity to bring that to the new city council so that we could have maybe a new set of eyes on this transition.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, you're first under the gun again for the next question. What is your 2 to 5 year vision for planning Credit River's future, such as managing proposed developments that include single-family homes, multifamily homes such as townhomes, apartments, affordable housing, and commercial developments and their need for city sewer and water services, including updated roads?
Yeah, I hear it over and over again when I've talked to people, knocking on doors, reaching out to people I haven't talked to in a while, that I hear over and over again, and I'll say it myself, I moved here to escape the city. And all those things you just mentioned to me means the city is coming. Can we stop progress in time? No. Is there a 2040 comprehensive plan that was put together with good public input, both at the county and township level? Yes. Simple answer is you will see me balance any pressure for progress in the next 2 to 5 years for any of those things that you mentioned. We need to worry about our tax base. City's going to cost more, period. But I'm not going to sell out the community and that escape that we all love.
Thank you, Andrew. Brock.
You know, I'm piggybacking on Andrew here. What he said is what I'm saying. I'm out knocking on doors, meeting people, and it seems to be everybody is sort of got the same atmosphere everywhere. It's just, change is inevitable. I mean, we know that. But I'm the same way. I'm going to push back as much as I can and slow this process down as much as I can. And with that being said, you know, I want to make sure that as we move forward, I work with the residents and the developers at a pace that we're all comfortable with. That's it.
Thank you, Brock. Abe?
For me, this is one of the big ones for me is I was reading the engineering report that was done in 2020, and it calls for 443 homes to be on sewer within the next 5 to 10 years. As I've been talking to residents, that's been the number one concern. Why do we need to go to sewer? Why do we need to go to curbs? We moved out here for slow. We moved out here to escape the city. I feel we need to really look back and review our environmental needs, our fiscal needs. Do we need to go there? Is there an absolute desire and need from the city and from the citizens to move here? I think we should pause. We should take a break. We should look and see if that's absolutely necessary. I think slowing the city growth is a very, very important thing.
Thank you, Abe. Paul?
Well, yeah, wherever you go, you bring yourself and your problems with you, and so the cities grow and get a bit more crowded over time. I think one of the reasons I think we turned into a city is to provide sewer and septic services, which can be problematic for some people. But we have a pretty good community on the north west side who are running out of septic spaces on the small lots, and roads are time to get improved, and it's the right time to give them sewer and septic. So that's part of the reason, and you need to be a city to get into that position. Savage is right up to our border, and without sewer and septic services, we won't develop up in the Hampshire area. I think one of the challenges as population density goes up is road connectivity, and we have to make sure that we have collectors going into the county roads.
Thank you, Paul. Al?
So one of the challenges is a lot of townships got themselves into trouble years ago because if you build it, they may not come. So a lot of money was invested and the population never materialized. I pulled the data for Credit River. The population has only grown 10% over the last decade, which means how much more development do we need? To echo some of the points, a lot of people move out here to get away from the high density housing. And so it's sewer and water is a bit out of our control. We don't own the sewer and water facilities. We have to contract. So if someone's not willing to pull out a sewer interceptor, we don't have much in the way of an option. And the closest we've got to city water is in the 3 large developments we have where they have community wells or community septic. Yeah, I guess the 2 to 5 year plan, I just don't see the growth coming based on what we've seen in the past.
Okay, thank you, Al. Be the last question for this group. Al, you'll lead it off.
Yeah, so the biggest challenges I see as we transition, well, number one, it's not going to change that much for the residents.
Hold on, Al, why don't I read the question first? I
Oh,
know
go
you guys
ahead.
both just so
Sorry,
that
sorry, jumped the gun.
the people
I
who
ain't
are
ready
viewing,
already.
are viewing from home can follow us here.
I thought you were ready to go.
What do you believe to be Credit River's challenges as we transition to an increase of population in the future? And how have you personally reached out to Credit River residents to find out what they think regarding those challenges?
Sorry for jumping the gun.
No problem. Al.
So, yeah, again, I don't want to overestimate what the population increase is going to be. I don't think we're going to see the type of staggering growth we did. If you look back through history, there was a significant period of growth, 2008, 2009, 2010, which we're not seeing anymore. Yes, I talk to residents when they, unfortunately, we don't get a lot that come into meetings, but I do speak to them on an informal basis, email, phone calls. Always good when somebody calls and asks if you can remove the tree from the road. And you get into some very interesting discussions. Yeah, so yes, I personally reached out. And I don't think we're going to face the growth that we're worried about.
Okay, Al, thank you. Paul?
Yeah, I agree that growth will be slow. I don't think the economy's in a place to cause the pressures. But one of the things, as the population grows, there'll be appearance of more crime, so we might have to expand our policing staff or relationship with Scott County. We could get to the point where we need elementary and middle schools to supplement those provided by the current school district. More residents needs more traffic and dealing with congestion and roads. And for commercial development, we're going to need better communications capacity than we currently have in the township.
Thank you, Paul. Abe?
Yeah, so I've had an opportunity to talk to a number of residents as I've been out and about. And one of the things that I keep hearing again is taxes. And how do we limit the tax increase when we move from a township to a city? It's been stated before, more than likely it'll cost more to be a city. More than likely we'll have more services come in. So how do we make sure that we don't increase those taxes, but yet provide for those services that are needed as they are become a necessity? So those are the two things: keeping taxes down and then providing as needed services.
Thank you, Abe. Brock?
So when I've been speaking with the residents, one of the things that keeps coming up is whack and sack. And one of those issues being kind of a monumental one. And that's a lot of residents are non-compliant at this point with their septic systems. A lot of them have been granted out to like 2023, 2024. And I know bond well comes out and they give you a bid for $34,000. So we pay that $34,000 and now 3 years from now, we got to hook up to city sewer water. So are we getting some sort of variance permit here? Or what's actually going to take place so that citizens can rest easy knowing that they're not going to spend $30,000 and then have a monumental special assessment in 5 years? So that's been definitely an issue that has been discussed quite a bit.
Okay, thank you, Brock.
Steve,
Andrew.
Yeah, will you repeat the question one more time, just for my clarity, and also because Al kind of jumped the gun, so that
Sorry.
people online know the question that we're answering.
What do you believe to be Credit River's challenges as we transition to an increase of population in the future? And how have you personally reached out to Credit River residents to find out what they think regarding those challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And I've been out and about like the rest of us and shook a lot of hands, put up a lot of signs, and knocked on a lot of doors. To some of Abe's points is we got two things that are going to be big challenges, and you need to get familiar with them if you're not. Met Council, they're going to leverage and lean hard against us, up on that 185th and North there. That's going to become a big issue for your sewer and water. And let's be honest, we traded a city for a city. A lot of that would have been annexed by other cities that would have had variance and offset costs, but we just annexed ourselves. We just got off our parents' insurance plan. With that comes a lot of cost, period. Infrastructure, roads, city, sewer. We need careful planning, thoughtful fiscal infrastructure planning for the future, because like all of us, we do not want to see our bonds go through the roof, our debt go through the roof, and our levy be out of control. That is going to be our biggest challenge in the next 2 to 5 years. Come up with a budget to pay for this city.
Okay, thank you. And I tell you what, you guys are doing such a great job. I'm going to ask y'all one last question, which is what a couple of you hit on. How do you budget the need for present Credit River spending and also planning for future expenditures such as a new city hall, city parks, police and public safety, all while balancing that with the rising property taxes already incurred by our residents? Andrew.
Yeah, and I just hit on that, so thanks for the nice follow-up question, Steve. That's a nice volley. What I think we need to do, and another challenge that I think Credit River as a township has had a hard time overcoming, is transparent, engaging communication. And we need to listen, and we need more input, because everything you just mentioned are big decisions. I think that when people hear city, there's an assumption parks and recs, paths, big build out, we need new city halls. I say, I think we need to get a more engaged audience and really hear what it is that makes up Credit River and those values, and then put that forward, and that will develop our budget in the next 2 to 5 years, because of everything you just mentioned costs a lot of money, even though we may enjoy it. And most of us, I said, escape the city to get away from that. Live independently, open wide spaces, be the sportsman, be the outdoorsman, and outdoors people we want to be.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Brock?
This guy's phenomenal.
Thanks, man.
I'm piggybacking off of you again.
Your mic's not on, by the way.
Is it not?
Yeah, could you repeat?
It is on.
But when you keep saying piggyback on me, for those online, Brock is a very large man. I'm afraid if you hop on my back, it's gonna hurt real bad.
Brock, he's stealing your 1 minute thunder, so I get going.
It's okay. No, I mean, it comes back to transparency. I mean, I still don't know, no offense to everybody sitting here, but I don't remember getting a memo that we're voting on becoming a city. Am I the only one that didn't get that memo? So we need more transparency. If we're gonna move forward as a city, we need to make sure that the residents know exactly what's taking place, what's going on, and including them in on that. And that's what I'm bringing to the table, is I wanna make sure that we build out the websites, build out the social media, build out everything so that people are included and can be involved with that. And I think we can move forward and develop this city accordingly with residents' help.
Thank you, Brock. Abe?
Budgets, as strange as this may sound for most people, is my love language. I love numbers. I love data. I love to pour over that type of information. I think it's super important from a business perspective, from a nonprofit perspective, from a household perspective, and certainly from a government perspective, to be fiscally responsible. And that's really where it comes down to. Are we being fiscally responsible with the resources that are the hard-earned incomes that our residents are giving us? Need to make sure that we can get the municipal state aid and the aid from the government to be able to handle some of these needs that we're going to have. And obviously there's a bonding, but like also, how much liability do you want to take on to maximize those assets that we need? So thank you.
Thanks, Abe. Paul?
I think it's pacing. you can't do the developments before you can afford them or or the community is ready for them. So you have to spend the time raising awareness, communicating where the direction is, listening to the people who need those services, and go forward. We have 5-year capital improvement plans. The water and sewer stuff will be in a capital improvement plan as well. And so we'll take it step by step as we can afford to.
Thank you, Paul. Al?
So the challenge with new construction is a number of our developments have residents that aren't here for a long term, 5 to 7 years, and they move on. So it's difficult to do an accrual and in terms of a levy to build new infrastructure, new city hall. So we've tried to be look at the building we're in. You know, this was a garage. We at least coated the floor so the diesel didn't come up anymore. But we've tried to keep the spending to a minimum while taking into account that there's going to be additional expenditures in the future. I think our goal was 3%, no more than 3% year over year tax increases for the township portion, now the city portion. We tend to be we're cheap. And I think the residents appreciate that because they're getting hit with tax increases from a number of sources.
Thank you, Al. Okay, we're going to go to closing statements. And I would ask that you try to keep it as close to 1 minute as possible because we have covered so much material already. And to be fair to the rest of these candidates, that they get ample time. So with that, Al, start your closing statement.
Yeah, so I go back to what Jefferson said, which is government is best, which governs least. So do what's necessary to provide public safety, infrastructure, the basics, without gilding the lily, as they say. We don't need all the amenities and things that you might get in a city. That allows us to keep the levy down. That allows us to keep development at a manageable point. And I also believe growth has to fund itself. If you build it, they may not come. And so why invest the money without knowing the growth is going to be there? That got a lot of people in trouble not too many years ago, a lot of other cities and townships. I don't think we should go down that path. I've enjoyed being on the town board. I look forward to being on the city council. I like serving the community.
Thank you, Al. Paul?
Well, I think one of the important things is that we're moving to become a city in order to control the development of the area, more control to protect ourselves from our neighboring communities and annexation. And it's important that we go forward with that. I've been here for coming up on 20 years now. I'm enjoying being on the board and the challenges of it. I get to talk to a lot of people in the wintertime because I'm on winter roads. And so I find out about all the mailboxes. That is an opportunity to have a conversation.
Thank you, Paul. Abe?
Thank you, Steve, for this opportunity. Thank you for the time today. I'm not shy about it. I'm new to the city. I'm new. Some people call that a disadvantage. Frankly, I call it an advantage. Living in Eureka Township, a township similar size or smaller, than living in a larger city of Lakeville, I really feel I can bring both of those to the table. Bring a new, a fresh approaches that maybe we haven't thought about. Things we shouldn't do, things we should do, bring it to the table. The other thing I wanted to address is, why did I pick 2-year commitment? I picked that because I'm a risk. I'm an unknown. I understand that. I'm not unfamiliar with that. 5 years ago, when I was taking a new position at the company I'm working with, as well as the board of directors for the nonprofit, I had to show that I was able to do it. Same type of approach, common sense and integrity and communication. That's what I will bring to this board.
Thanks, Abe. Brock?
Credit River. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a software company. I'm a successful realtor. And I am not a politician. I am you. I'm an extension of you. I want to make sure that you're heard and I'm your outlet. Wherever you want to take this city, let me be your tool. That's all.
Thank you, Brock. Andrew?
Thanks, Brock. That was thoughtful. Thanks, Steve, for facilitating. Thanks to all the other candidates. And again, most importantly, thank everybody online. When you vote on May 11th for Andrew Stevens, you're going to vote in a guy that's not going anywhere in 5 to 7 years out. I think probably our police, fire, and EMS are going to pull me off my little chunk of land some 40 years from now, hopefully. my wife, my 3 daughters, we're here for the long term. Here's what you get with Andrew Stevens on May 11th. Keep it simple. Minimize ordinance and regulation. Balance the pressure for progress. Make fiscal decisions that impact us now and in the future. You're going to get transparent, open communication. And most importantly with Andrew Stevens, I will listen. There are difficult decisions to come, and I will make those while I'm walking in your shoes. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Andrew. At this point in time, just so everybody's watching, you have heard from 5 candidates for 2-year city council term. You are electing 2 of those when you come in on May 11th, or if you haven't voted ahead of time. So with that, these 5 will vacate their seats. We will do a quick sanitization of the table and armchairs, and then we will seat the 4 candidates for the 4-year term.
Hey, you don't have to squirt that much now. This stuff's expensive. Yeah.
Give it a shot. I don't know. We should have. Good luck to you.
It's the Rockland. Cool. We'll get it done. Oh, shoot.
There we go.
Oh, my God. Questions?
Whenever you're ready to, Leroy.
Yeah.
Gilbert. Okay, could I have the 4 city council term members set? We have Bob Hawkins, Leroy Schomer, Dexter Spillman, and Brent Larson.
You're one, right? Yeah. I know the one went.
That's good or not.
Okay, everyone who at home, we are back. We have 4 candidates for the 2 4-year terms to serve on the Credit River City Council. Karen Witt has withdrawn, as I mentioned earlier. So we have Leroy Schomer, Brent Lawrence, Bob Hawkins, and Dexter Spillman. So let's start with opening statements. Leroy Schomer, you are first under the gun.
Lived in the township for 27 years, been on town board for 21. Other than that, that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. Let's go on to Brent Lawrence.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And first of all, let me thank our moderator and Credit River Clerk Karen Donovan and everyone involved in putting the program together tonight. As our moderator said, my name is Brent Lawrence, along with my wife, Deborah. We moved to a home on 165th Street in Credit River in 1989. And we actually found Credit River by chance because we were boarding our horses at Valley Oak Stable on Natchez. We enjoyed riding in Murphy Hanrahan Park, and Credit River ended up being a really great place to raise our family. In fact, when we initially bought the house, we thought we were living in Prior Lake. And the realtor didn't tell us, and we didn't find out until we were actually moved in. Well, I was elected to the board in 2008, and 5 years of that time, I was the chair of the board. And I've been involved in every decision that the board has made since 2008. Now, my past business experience includes 23 years as a manager and director in a Fortune 500 company. And I think that's turned me into an experienced leader, a good listener, and an effective decision maker. I and the board have said all along, and when we were were quoted in the article in the Star Tribune in April. If you like Credit River as a township, you will like Credit River as a city. So again, my name is Brent Lawrence. I hope I can count on your vote on May 11th. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. We have Bob Hawkins.
Well, good evening, everyone. And I want to begin by thanking the Credit River Township folks for putting this forum together. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to introduce ourselves. And thank you to Steve for being a part of it as well. My name is Bob Hawkins. My wife, Deborah, and I have lived in the community for 14 years now, and I bring a wealth of experience to the table. I've been in public service for 42 and a half years. For 37 of those years, I was in law enforcement, 25 of them in Burnsville. For the last 8.5 years at Burnsville, I was the community's police chief. I've also been at the state for a little over 5 years. And while I was there, I was one of the assistant commissioners for the Department of Public Safety. And I was blessed to work with a ton of great people. And some of the divisions I led while I was at DPS was alcohol and gambling, BCA, State Patrol, Homeland Security, Emergency Management, and State Fire Marshal, to name a few. I think one of the things that's a little bit different about me, obviously, I bring 3 decades of municipal experience, but I also bring, am I done? That seemed quick. Kind of a unique look to it. I mean, obviously, we all have a great passion for Credit River, the country feel, the allure that brought us here. And I also am very interested in keeping that. But for me, it's not about the ideologies of us. It's not our individual ideas. We're here to represent the community. The 5,600 folks that call Credit River home, the business members that work here as well. I want to make sure that their voice, their passion is a part of this process so we continue to lead into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Lastly, we have Dexter Spillman.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Credit River. My name is Dexter Spillman. I'm used to working in the background. I've been a diesel mechanic at Metro Transit for 17 years. I don't have many interactions with too many people daily. I work in a shop amongst other guys. We're just trying to survive all the jokes that we can play on each other. But seriously, we moved here 4 years ago, 2017, and what I've just witnessed last year, global pandemic, city being snuck underneath the rug upon all of us. I've been around to many, many neighborhoods around here. I'm deeply concerned about what happened last year. And it sure did show a lot of the people when they're talking to me on their front stoops, and they're just asking what happened. And I'm not going to let that happen again. There's going to be transparency. I'm going to work with common sense, respect for everybody. And if we have to, we're going to be mailing newsletters every month to get everybody involved in this community. That's what needs to happen here. I'm not a politician. You can already tell that. So a little bit nervous, but hey, it's a start for me. And I plan on sticking around here a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dexter. Okay, we will go back to, these are 1 minute time limits, one question at a time. So Leroy, the first question again, in order to address your present knowledge of past governance topics of Credit River, how many Credit River meetings, planning commission meetings, or miscellaneous township meetings have you attended during 2019 and 2020?
I attended all of them that we scheduled. We have countless meetings. I don't know how many, I can't remember them all, with residents on different topics, from trees to plugged up culverts to road issues to whatever. So an awful lot.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. Let's go on to Brent.
All right, thank you, Steve. Well, I've been to every Credit River Township meeting, including board, planning, LBA in 2019 and 2020, and with a couple of exceptions, every Credit River meeting since 2008. Other meetings that I've been involved with Credit River, which I believe are very important, are liaison with both Prior Lake and the City of Savage, and I am the representative to scale. So pretty much every meeting since being on the board since 2008. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Bob?
Thank you, Steve. I have not been to any of the meetings in these past 2 years, but one of the things that's changed for me, as of March 1st of 2021, I'm now retired. And in my 30 years of experience at municipal level, the thing that made those council members very, very successful was that they realized it's much more than just the meetings. It's all the extra work that goes with that. And for us transitioning from a township to a city, there's going to be plenty of work for us. Reaching out, meeting people, the research, the decisions on the projects and studies that'll be before us. I'm going to have the time to be able to do all of that, plus the meetings. Those council members that were successful are the ones that did that. The ones that didn't, unfortunately, they didn't last and they were not successful. With my retirement, I have the time to make the commitment, and I certainly have the passion and desire, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dexter?
I attended 2 virtual meetings in the fall of 2020. That's when my wife and I got wind of what was happening. If something isn't broke, I'm not going to fix it. You can do preventative maintenance all you want, but like most people said on their front doors while I was talking to them, is why would I look at the township website to see what's going on? Everything seems okay. That was the biggest lack of transparency that we can all see here. So I've attended 3 meetings so far this year. Other than that, like I say, last year, it was just towards the fall when I learned of everything happening. So I'll be making it to every single one from now on.
Thank you, Dexter. And with that, we will start with you for the next question. How familiar are you with the process of what needs to be done as Credit River transitions from township to city status?
I've never experienced that. I haven't been a part of a council. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to work with everybody respectively. And biggest thing is transparency and being as cost efficient as possible. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dexter. Bob?
You know, I've already hinted at it. Obviously, I, again, bring quite a bit of experience, 30 years with the municipal government. So the transition from township to city council, it's going to be a big move for us. There's going to be a lot that's involved with that. One of the things, and some of the other candidates have talked about this, but as soon as we became a city, we've taken on additional expenses. There's just no way around that. And one of the things that I want to make sure that we're really aware of is that we need to be fiscally prudent. We need to make sure that we take a good look at where we're at now. What do we have in our coffers? Are we able to cover the expenses that we have for work that's already there? And as we move into the future, which again, there's going to be those challenges, we have to make sure we try to do it at a pace that we're going to be able to maintain that, where we're going to be able to keep what we all like here in Credit River, but also take a look at what changes that need to occur. And again, we got to make sure we involve the residents and the business owners in Credit River.
Thank you, Bob. Brent?
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, my understanding is that when the new council is seated, and that would be the first meeting in June, I believe that is June 7th, we actually do at that point become a city. A lot of things have been done in advance, and I know we just selected our insurance carrier through the League of Cities at our April 19th meeting, so I'm very familiar with it. We've been working on this off and on since 2008, and as of July or June 7th, with the new city council, we will be a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Leroy?
For the next 2 to 5 years, we will be doing sewer and water in the northern portion of the township because Met Council pretty much forced that on us in 2008, I believe, when they asked us to come up with a plan for several of the bigger developments. We will have some costs probably incurred out of that. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. And Leroy, you are up with the next question, which is, what is your 2 to 5 year vision for planning Credit River's future, such as managing proposed developments that include single-family homes, multifamily homes, such as townhomes, apartments, affordable housing, and commercial developments, and their need for city and sewer water services, including updated roads?
Well, I kind of got the questions mixed up here. We use a assessment as far as our roads to help pay for stuff. And as far as commercial developments, we encourage mom and pop businesses in the neighborhood to help fight off the big commercial developments. So.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. Going back the other way, Brent.
Steve, could you repeat that again? I was replacing a batteries in the microphone there, so.
Made some
I
good
was a bit-
catches.
I was a bit obsessed with positive and negatives.
What is your 2 to 5 year vision for planning Credit River's future, such as managing proposed developments that include single-family homes, multifamily homes, such as townhomes, apartments, affordable housing, and commercial developments, and their need for city, sewer, and water services, including updated roads?
All right, thank you. Well, we do have a sewer and water plan in place with the city of Savage. That was one of the first things that I began working on when I joined the board in 2008. We now handle planning and zoning, and managing developments will be done pretty much like we have in the past years, with the exception that we are now the planning authority and we won't be working with Scott County in terms of getting those put through. The new council is going to appoint a planning and zoning commission after they're seated. And I should mention again, and this goes back to the old community development director, Scott County, Michael Sabota, always said, remember, development must pay its own way. We've said that many times sitting in this room on the board, and it's very important. So that's what I would be looking at on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Bob.
Steve, thank you. Again, that's one of the things, it's a very, very good question because it's that balance. Right now, for me, if there's a couple of things that I'd want to focus on immediately, it would be infrastructure. Take a good look at the roads, take a look at the buildings. Here is this, the facility we're in now, is it going to be sufficient for the immediate future, next couple of years? Also, public safety, make sure we continue to forge that strong relationship with Sheriff Hennon, with Prior Lake Fire. We want to make sure the public safety is sound as well. The other stuff that you mentioned, yes, some of that could be coming as well, but how do we hang on to the country setting in Credit River? How do we hang on to this tranquil feel that we have? How do we try to make sure we're extremely prudent when it comes to those fiscal expenses? So let's take a look at what we need now, make sure we plan well for the future, and again, bring in the 5,600 residents and the business owners to be a part of our future planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dexter?
I'd like to see Credit River as unchanged as possible. Sewer and water to those neighborhoods who absolutely need it. I would want the developments to have higher acreage lots. Roads need to be maintained, as well as we all know, but keeping lot sizes larger and high density housing numbers low, we will prolong our roads. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dexter. Okay, Dexter, you'll be starting off with this question. What do you believe to be Credit River's challenges as we transition to an increase of population in the future? And how have you personally reached out to Credit River residents to find out what they think regarding those challenges?
I think our biggest challenge is getting new people up on the board. We got turned into a city real quick with not much input from the public. The overwhelming majority of the people I've spoken to are against increased developments and large manufacturing. Like I already said, a campaign door to door for weeks, and I've been alarmed how little knowledge of this transition anybody had. Thank you.
Thanks, Dexter. Bob?
Steve. It's those conversations that you have with your neighbors and your neighborhoods, the connecting neighborhoods over the past several years, as far as, again, what we like so much about Credit River and what brought us here and what keeps us here. And again, to me, it's a little bit redundant, but we want to be fiscally prudent. It's so important that we keep on top of the expenses and we maintain what we have. We don't want to be, as we said, the Burnsville, the Lakevilles. We like this country setting. We want to maintain this setting. And we just have to really plan and be intentional for what we do as we move into the future, and speak with all the residents, speak with the other family members that are here in Credit River, hear what they want to do, what their future looks like as well, and make that a part of ours as the Credit River City Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Brent?
Thank you. Well, I've also visited with many residents during the campaign. I really believe that what we have done with COVID and streaming the meetings over the last year has been very, very good. In fact, we've marveled at how many more people are viewing the meetings now that they can relax in their homes instead of, especially in the very cold weather, coming down to the town hall. So I think that is an outreach situation from COVID that has really worked well for us. We've got the equipment here to do it. The microphones work most of the time. So I think we can continue doing that. But one of the challenges will be to manage growth, make sure any new developments make sense for the area that they are being proposed in. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Leroy?
Back in 2008, we budgeted for incorporation, and it was approved at an annual meeting. We budgeted every year for that since. 2 years ago, we bought off annexation from Prior Lake, and we did it again last year. And we were at the threshold to proceed on to become a city. So that's why we took that step, and it was to protect our borders so that we can make plans for the future and have the township intact.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. Last question. How do you budget the need for present Credit River spending and also planning for the future expenditures such as a new city hall, city parks, police, and public safety, while balancing all that with rising property taxes already incurred by our residents? Leroy?
Well, if I'm on the new city council, we're going to try to keep everything the way it is, use the same services we have as far as snow plowing, tree trimming, all this. It's been very efficient over the years, and going to continue to do that, I hope. We need to look at some property for a city hall, something that our residents can come in and vote without standing in the parking lot. That's about it.
Okay, thank you, Leroy. Brent?
Thank you. Yes. Well, it's an area where we really do need to move slow. I think one of the things, and we saw this in the latest audit that was done, our tax per capita is about half of what it is in other cities in Scott County. So we've got a good start in terms of keeping taxes low. And anybody that lives in Credit River knows our community is pretty conservative on spending. And I believe the town board has been that way as well. But it's an area where we need to move slow, add services or assets only after a needs-based and a financial consideration study is completed. So again, I think we need to go slow. What we have been doing seems to be working. This building, using contractors for services instead of buying equipment. And that's what I would like to see happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Bob?
Thank you, Steve. Same thing. We really have to take a look at pace. We have to do a good job of taking a look at the audits. We have to take a really good job of determining exactly what we have now. Do we have enough to meet our immediate needs? Do we have enough for the immediate future? Maybe there is more we can take on. One of the things we have to be very careful of, I've heard it talked about a little bit, is local government aid, LGA, and getting state aid for the roads. It's the legislators and state statute that governs that. It's formulas that are very specific to those monies. And if you take a look at the cities receiving LGA in 2021, cities like Apple Valley, Bloomington, Burnsville, Chaska, Chanhassen, just to name a few, are getting zero. That is not something we can plan on or use as part of our budgeting. We really have to take a look at what we've got going on right here at home, and we have got to be fiscally prudent. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dexter?
I believe let's only do what's absolutely needed. Overspending in areas that have not been beneficial, such as $300,000 for satellite internet, numbers just aren't lining up. Also, decrease in annual pay for mayor and councils. I'm willing to take a hit to show the people that I'm not here for the money. I'm here to stand up for everybody. So thanks.
Thank you, Dexter. Now we move on to the final part for you four gentlemen, is the closing statements. So again, we'd like to keep them to a minute. And Dexter, why don't you start?
Thanks, Steve. We were really excited when we moved down here 4 years ago to be part of a smaller township again. We moved from Lent Township, north of Stacy, Minnesota. And we moved down here for better schools for our kids. And it's just gorgeous. Our area is beautiful. Tell you what, the drive for me to keep on talking to people has gotten stronger and stronger every house that I stop at. I put a lot of miles on my truck, burned a lot of gas, and I've walked a lot. And I can't do the political talking like most people can, but I'm getting out there and really doing the dirty work. I'm talking to all of you. I'm doing my best. Just trying to stick up for everybody because we all feel the same. We moved out here to be in a township, not a city. I'll take time to listen, work with the citizens. Large manufacturing is in the cities around us. Let's keep it there. Don't bring it here. I have a website that's very easy to find. If anybody wants to find some more information, I'm willing to talk in person, on the phone, email, or text message.
Thank you, Dexter. Bob?
Thank you. And Dexter, I just want you to know that I appreciate your genuineness. You're grounded and you have a passion for this community. So thank you for that. I share that feeling as well. For the people who have gotten to know me, they see that passion, and the same thing where I'm extremely genuine. I bring, again, a lot of years of experience working in government, and I want to keep Credit River where we've got it. I want to work very closely with the 5,600 residents, the business owners. I want to hear what they think, what they feel, and I want to work hard to make it happen. So hopefully I'll get that opportunity. And again, thank you for this forum tonight. Appreciate this opportunity to speak before people. And thank you for the folks that are listening, and hopefully those that'll listen in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Brent?
Yeah, and I would agree too. I have a passion for Credit River. We've been here for 32 years and plan on staying here a while. And we have seen a lot of changes in that 32 years. The 1990 population that Met Council reported was 2,854. Projection for 2020 is 5,650. So that's an increase of nearly 100% in a 30-year period. In 2008, when I came on the board, as part of that election, the other question that came up was moving to a 5-member board of supervisors, and that was approved. And we had another election right after that in the middle of 08. And then a few years later, our residents approved having the clerk and treasurer appointed instead of an elected position. So Credit River began operating really much more like a city a long time ago. So again, my past business experience has turned me into a great leader, a good listener, an effective decision maker, and I hope I can count on your vote on May 11th. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Last but not least, Leroy?
Since about 2012, I believe, or 11, we've been operating as an urban township, which is between a township and a city. We've been getting different funds for that. We have I think I'm doing a really good job with, like I said, with the maintenance stuff. The town board has been doing a lot of the maintenance themselves. And we hope, if I get elected, I hope to continue to keep the taxes down and run it like it is.
Thank you. That includes the 4 people who are vying for 2 4-year positions on the city council for Credit River. So thank you all. We'll sanitize now and get to the mayor candidates after that.
Thought that counts. Look at that. Better squirt than Chris. I'll grab the chairs back here. I don't know how Chris is gonna do both.
Yeah.
What's that?
How are you gonna do both? Are you bringing these gizmo up here?
I do it both with during our board meetings now. Master control.
I know.
Well, we're every day. I'll pass it off to you, Leroy. You can, master control. Thank you. There we go.
There you go.
Thank you.
That's a very good one.
Yeah, who's gonna do this?
Chris, are we good then without you sitting there?
I got the remote control right here. This is the way I operate it during our board meetings, so it'd be no different.
Okay, if we're all set, let's start the last phase of our forum tonight, which are the 3 candidates for the 2-year term of mayor. We have Chris Kostick, BJ Jungman, and Rob Casey. Rob is seated in the center. BJ is on the screen that you're presently seeing right now. And Chris is on the other side of Rob. So let's start with the opening statements for mayor. 2 minutes, please. BJ, it's up to you.
Good evening, Credit River residents. Thank you for tuning in and for your time. Thank you, Mr. Wolf, for moderating and coordinating this event. My name is BJ Jungman, and I have been a resident of Credit River for the past 8 years with my wife and 2 school-age children. We love Credit River and want to keep Credit River a great place where we moved out here to be in a tranquil environment. Because of my experience in education, I feel I'm the most qualified to be mayor. I have over 2 decades of leadership experience in a city government. I've worked with elected officials at many levels in government and have a master's degree in public administration from Hamline University. I'm familiar with city governance, budgets, zoning, operations, and policies. I'm currently a fire chief and paramedic. I've held many roles, both in my career and volunteer opportunities to serve and lead. I'm a passionate leader that will be honest, transparent, and dedicated to ensure that Credit River is the best it can be for its residents. I look forward to serving Credit River and our residents as its first mayor. My priorities include increasing transparency, setting a solid foundation for governance, financial planning, smart development of infrastructure that is not penny wise and pound foolish, and supporting our great public safety partners who provide quality service to our community. I will be honest and transparent as I'm dedicated to the success of Credit River and its residents. Because of my experience in education, I feel I'm the most qualified. You can find out more of me or contact me at www.choosejungman.com or at Choose Jungman on Facebook. I would appreciate your vote on May 11th, and I look forward to discussing this further with more Credit River residents as I'm out and about.
Thank you, BJ. Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob Casey, lifetime resident of Credit River, born and raised here. Operate a dairy crop beef farm with my wife and 2 nephews. Been through Credit River many places, know it from top to bottom. Volunteered many different boards. Cemetery is one in Credit River. volunteered other aspects through Credit River Township as a kid. And I just want to represent Credit River, the residents. A vote for me would definitely be a vote for you. So that's why I'm running, to protect what we've had and keep a nice way of life that everyone's enjoyed.
Thank you, Rob. Chris.
Well, good evening. I'm Chris Kostick. My family and I have lived in Credit River for 24 years. I became involved in the township government and somewhere around the 2000s. I began attending board meetings and the annual meetings often, and even was elected by the residents to moderate the annual meetings several years preceding my election to the Credit River Board in 2013. In 2015, my fellow board members elected me as the board chair. I've held that position ever since. During my time on the Credit River Board, I have served on the Finance Committee, worked with the cities of Prior Lake, Savage, and Lakeville on common issues, for example, fire services and shared roads. I've also worked with Scott County and the Met Council on several issues. There are also times where I'm out removing trees that are falling on the road in the middle of the night, picking up garbage from the roads, replacing street signs, and knee deep in the water, cleaning out culverts that are frozen. Some of the key accomplishments that Credit River has achieved under my leadership are: we've achieved a AA+ bond rating, reducing our interest costs when we need to borrow. Only 27 cities in the state of Minnesota have a better credit rating than Credit River. This high rating is due to the strong management and controls and policies that exist in the township here. We kept the Credit River levy at 14% of the market tax rate since 2013. This compares to over 30% in the neighboring cities. We've developed and implemented the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, which is responsible planning for the future of Credit River. We assumed planning and zoning this past year, taking that authority from Scott County and bringing the controls and the permanent revenue, which is about $200,000 annually, to Credit River. I also negotiated with Prior Lake and Scott County favorable police and fire contracts.
Thank you, Chris. Now we will start the question portion of this with BJ, with the first question directed to you, which is: in order to address your present knowledge of past governance topics of Credit River, how many Credit River meetings, planning commission meetings, or miscellaneous township meetings have you attended during 2019 and 2020? And again, please, if all of you with the question portion of this, keep your answers to a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I've attended most board meetings in person or virtually over the past 2 years. One of my priorities is to ensure transparency of government. Residents should be able to participate virtually, whether in real time or to have the ability to find all of the information regarding city business on the website. It is of the utmost importance that agendas and, more importantly, the supporting materials are published on the website days ahead of the meeting. This includes ordinances that must have public hearings. State data practices statutes sets the floor for transparency, but not the ceiling. It is best practice to provide these background materials, which is the context for the decisions being made. I don't believe it's feasible to expect citizens to attend all the meetings, but I want them to have access to all the materials so they can reach out to their mayor and council before the meeting with their questions and concerns. I believe more information and input will make Credit River a better place. It cannot be left up to just the elected officials to have input. This is very important, as citizens are no longer able to directly vote on their tax levy at the annual meeting, as this transition to a city places the sole responsibility on the mayor and council's hands.
Thank you, BJ. Rob?
Hello. Quantitatively, relatively few. Qualitatively, I've attended enough to know that it takes more leadership to run a city than a township. And that's all I'll say on that.
Thank you, Rob. Chris?
Since 2013, I think I've only missed one of our board meetings. In 2019 and 2021, I did attend all the Credit River board meetings, all of our planning commission meetings, several meetings with Scale, several meetings with Scott County, met with Met Council, and presented at some Met Council to full Met Council meetings.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Chris, you'll start the second question. How familiar are you with the process of what needs to be done as Credit River transitions from township to city status?
Well, thank you, Steve. Credit River has operated much like a city since adopting urban town powers in 2010. Recently, Credit River has taken on planning and zoning, but really some of the only things that are left to do include some financial reporting changes, moving from the Minnesota Association of Townships to the League of Minnesota City Trust for insurance, complete a prosecution, which is non-levy impacting agreement with Scott County Attorney's Office, and continue to refine the zoning ordinances to provide for long-term planning in Credit River.
Thank you, Chris. Rob?
Yeah, the township form to city form government is largely guided by state statute. And with that, our attorney Rupi will guide the mayor, the council, and through these steps, the mayor and the council will face many difficult challenges that'll force decisions that are the time and quality and the money, meaning how fast we want to move forward, the quality that we want the township to be at the end, and what kind of monies we have to work with will decide how this all goes.
Thank you, Rob. BJ?
Thanks, Steve. I'm an experienced government leader that is very familiar with operations and policies of cities, such as setting budgets that meet community priorities, establishing and maintaining infrastructure, and providing public safety services. I'm also knowledgeable with the decisions that need to be made, such as governance models, which there's 3 options, budget processes, and infrastructure funding options. I have worked in cities for more than 2 decades, and I've been part of a policymaking and budget process directly for over a decade. I also serve as the Minnesota State Fire Chiefs Association Legislative Chair, which has allowed me to work with many stakeholders, including the League of Minnesota Cities, the Minnesota Association of Townships, and many local leaders. This has given me firsthand insight to the decisions and challenges with both cities and townships. I will ensure we are future-oriented in our decision-making and are not being penny-wise and pounding foolish with our investments in infrastructure and operations. I will ensure we get all the available information before making decisions to insulate the city from making short-sighted and costly decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, BJ. And you'll start the next question. What is your 2 to 5 year vision for planning Credit River's future, such as managing proposed developments that include single-family homes, multifamily homes such as townhomes, apartments, affordable housing, and commercial developments, and their need for city sewer and water services, including updated roads?
Thank you, Steve. My priorities go well beyond the 2 to 5 year vision. As many decisions we make in the next 2 to 5 years as a city will have ripple effects long beyond those 2 to 5 years. The zoning has been solidified by the current township board and Met Council. In the following the currently adopted 2040 comprehensive plan, we must realize that it is a 20-year plan and not a 2 to 5 year plan that needs to be fully accomplished in that time frame. Setting the direction for development in the next 2 to 5 years will be critical for responsibly growing the city, and I will support keeping the dense development and water and sewer infrastructure in the northern part of our city. I want to find a sustainable funding option for the installation of the infrastructure and ensure that it is sized for the future and not just today. I think we need to wrestle with decisions such as whether the city will pay for the entire infrastructure or which percentage of the infrastructure will be assessed to residents. This infrastructure could be costly given the lot sizes in Credit River. We'll need development to help pay for this infrastructure in the north end of Credit River, but needs to be smart development. I'm not certain that high density developments are right for Credit River right now, as we don't have the infrastructure or capacity to serve them. Thank you.
Rob?
I'm not running for mayor with the set vision, but I'm running with, I've lived in my entire life as a resident. There'll be time to set a vision and do so together with input from the community and other people to keep it a great place to live like it's been. And I don't see the need for apartments, some of that stuff. We have the best development, second to none in the county. Why would we go away from what we got?
Thank you, Rob. Chris?
So Credit River has spent the last 4 years working on the 2040 comprehensive plan. This plan details current and what potential development and land use could look like, including housing, transportation, parks, etc. This plan does look out 20 years, but will get refined after 10. When you look at the short term to 2 to 5 years, as the question states, if the economic conditions do not change, there will likely be continued large lot development, as there's already a couple developments with applications in the queue. But since municipal service expansion is not in the Met Council system statements, at this time, it'd be difficult for any small lot, commercial, single family, or multifamily development to occur at this time. There are some environmental situations in some of the neighborhoods in the northern part of Credit River that are already developed at small lots that will require municipal services in the shorter term and are allowed by the Met Council at this time.
Thank you. Chris, you'll start out with this question. What do you believe to be Credit River's challenges as we transition to an increase in population in the future? And how have you personally reached out to Credit River residents to find out what they think regarding those challenges?
Good question. So the challenges with increased population is that the expectations of services and the demand in the transportation system will increase. The goal is not to let the expenses outpace the growth, keeping the tax rate flat. I've spent much time discussing Credit River's future with residents. Just for example, last week I was out at a neighborhood event listening and talking to residents about the conditions of the roads in their neighborhood and what potential services and parks could look like in their neighborhood.
Thank you, Chris. Rob?
Infrastructure will be the key to keep good roads, to keep the parks and the police, and be able to provide sewer services to the existing older developments that may need it in time. And it all goes back to the time, quality, and money thing to see how things will work.
Thank you, Rob. BJ?
So there'll be a number of challenges as we transition to a city. The first challenge, I believe, is mitigating the cost increases that would be burdened on day one. I know the goal of the current board was to solidify our borders and receive street aid. To the best of my knowledge, we will receive street aid for very few streets and will now have to pay between 7 and 45% of the county road reconstruction costs within the city. Texas Avenue is being redone this year. What will the cost of that be? I have not been able to locate a cost estimate at this point, but my guess it's beyond our current budget and the state aid that we will receive. I've talked to numerous residents in person, on the phone, and through email. I will say 75% of them had no idea that this transition was occurring and what it means to them and to be a city. The concerns will include what the costs will be, will they be required to get on city water and sewer, and when the election is.
Thank you, BJ. Rob?
Repeat
excuse me. We have BJ, I'm sorry about that. We have to start with you again.
Yep.
Last question. How do you budget the need for present Credit River spending and also planning for future expenditures such as a new city hall, city parks, police and public safety, while balancing that with rising property taxes already incurred by our residents?
Thank you, Steve. Having a 5 to 10 year budget plan that mirrors the expected development adopted in the 2040 comprehensive plan will assist in looking strategically rather than year to year. We will have to determine what the appropriate level of services with input from the citizens, determining what the costs are and the best way to provide those services. Currently, most services are contracted out, and those partnerships should continue to be strengthened to benefit the city and the residents. As the city continues to grow, these services will need to be evaluated to determine the best way to continue to serve the city in the most efficient, effective way. We have a common set of goals and priorities that should be informed by citizen input. For example, is a city hall being open 3.5 hours per week adequate? If not, what should it be? Having a strategic and long-term view will assist in prioritizing those needs and keeping tax burdens mitigated. The infrastructure and service demands will be the drivers of our costs.
Thank you, BJ. Rob?
Develop a capital improvement plan, which we already got going somewhat. So, stage your growth. We're in no rush to see how fast we can build. I think everyone here loves what they have. That's why they're here. And the new people that are moving here are moving for the same reasons. So there's no reason to worry too much. You do a 5-10 year plan, and we don't have to go into this thing the day after we become a city.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Chris?
So Credit River has outgrown the current government center. Anybody who was voting here on the general election standing in the parking lot should understand that. Our current deputy sits in the corner of the main room here. We call that corner over there our police station. So there will be a need for a new facility at some point in the future. Residents are asking for park improvements. Credit River has maintained a steady tax rate for over 10 years now. The key is to balance the spending and the debt so that it does not exceed the rate of growth. There are large items that will require bonding to smooth out the expense over time. The high bonding rating, the AA+ that we have, will help reduce those expenses, letting us borrow money at the lowest rate possible. We have taken advantage of that situation about every 3 years with our road improvement projects.
Thank you. That concludes the question portion of it. Now we get to closing statements supplied by the three candidates for mayor. And with that, as we've done all night, Chris, you'll start it, and we'll go the other way.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. So Credit River has operated like a city, pretty close to a city, since adopting urban town powers in 2010. Organizationally, there really isn't much difference between how Credit River has been operating and the neighboring cities. The elected board has filled many of the roles where most cities have staff. For instance, picking up garbage in ditches, cutting trees on roads, and hanging street signs. My vision for Credit River is to take advantage of my solid experience to manage the growth where the cost of service delivery and revenues are kept in balance. I believe that Credit River has the opportunity to find efficiencies in process that will avoid excessive expenses. As the population increases, there will be additional requests by residents for amenities and services. These expenses should not outpace the growth and keep the tax rate low. As many have said here tonight, I am very much in agreement that I would like to see Credit River maintain its beauty and charm that it is today. And all we're doing here is responsible planning to make sure that we can do that in the future. Credit River is some of the most incredible land in the Twin Cities area. We need experienced leadership to continue the path that sustains Credit River's assets. The Credit River Board has done the heavy lifting to ensure that this community will have a bright future. That's why I'm asking for your vote on May 11th. Vote for experienced leadership. And again, if you want more information, causticforcreditriver.com. More than happy to reach out. I'm more than happy to come visit with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Rob?
Hi, I'm Rob Casey again. Vote May 11th. I appreciate your vote. Your vote for me is a vote for you, and I'll provide the best possible knowledge there is to keep taxes low and to keep this a great township city to live in and keep people safe and provide good services and have an open ear to see what people have to say, what they would like to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. PJ?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you my perspective on the many considerations that need to be made as we move forward to being a city. Mr. Wolf, thank you again for moderating the forum. I want to close by reiterating that I believe I'm the best candidate for mayor due to my experience, education, skills, and abilities. With over 2 decades of experience in a city government and over 10 years as a fire chief, in addition to completing my master's degree in public administration, I'm uniquely qualified for this position as I am intimately familiar with the operations and decisions that must be made by a city. I've been able to lead and serve communities in both my career and volunteer opportunities, and I'm familiar with city governance, budgets, zoning, operations, and policies. And I've worked with city, county, state, and federal elected officials. My priorities are to increase transparency, set a solid foundation of governance and financial planning, smart development of infrastructure that's not penny wise and pound foolish, and supporting our great public safety partners who provide service to our community. I will lead with honesty and transparency, and I'm dedicated to the success of Credit River and its residents. Because of my experience in education, I feel I'm the most qualified. You can find out more about me at choosejungman.com or at choosejungman on Facebook. I would ask for your vote on May 11th, and thank you for your time, and I look forward to serving you.
For all of you watching on live stream, again, thank you for joining us. We also thank all these candidates for joining us tonight. I strongly ask that if you have any questions, they all are more than happy to meet with you to really decide, make a good firm decision on May 11th here. This is an important time as we transition to a city. So again, thank you. Please pass that this is on YouTube. So anybody within Credit River as a voter that has accessibility to this, please let them watch this in the future in order to make that important decision on May 11th. Thanks again.